What do we do when we're not making high-end videos? We network with purpose-driven people.
Our mission at Storyfiers is to help impact-driven brands tell stories through high-level video, so they're at least one step closer to making the world a better place.
But how do we connect with these people behind these brands? Well, we call it strategic networking.
We go where they go.
And some of them were in Oxford at B Corp's Louder Than Words festival.
What's B Corp?
Let me tell you.
So I've got a Volvic bottle here, and at the back you'll see that it's certified B. B Corps are businesses that meet high standards of social and environmental performances. And it's one of those things that once you see it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. So you've seen it here, and come here, it's also on businesses like the White Company there.
That sort of impact is right up our alley. So we were excited to attend the festival and see where the Business for Good movement has gotten to, while also meeting fellow impact makers.
So how much did this trip cost? Will we be successful in making connections? And how do we figure out if these festivals are actually worth going to? Keep watching to find out.
Oh, and if you're a B Corp, stick to the end because we have a proposition you should consider.
We travelled to Oxford the night before, and we're so glad we did, because our train got cancelled mid-journey and we ended up arriving in Oxford 3 hours late. But we still managed to get up early the next day to collect our badges from Oxford Town Hall, had a chat with the helpful festival volunteers.
I've got my Hagrid hair from the rain.
Grabbed some breakfast from a Lebanese eatery in Oxford's quaint covered market.
That was a very spicy shawarma. Always supporting local, and made it just in time for the festival's opening ceremony at the new theatre, Oxford.
Come with us.
The show opened with a performance from Justice in Motion, who creatively summed up the economic reality we live in, where corporations favour profit over humans. They powerfully acted out scenes showing brutal layoffs and used spoken word to explain the irony of the housing crisis in Britain.
For those who need support on their own accommodation hunt, been on a waiting list for 18 months, praying it comes. Sick of seeing these people laying in slums, especially in a city that's fitted with vacant rooms in the towers.
They also touched on stifling free healthcare, manufacturers' wasteful methods just to make a bottle of water, for example, and how we should be buying local for a better economy.
The objective was to remind us that UK businesses should be acting as a force for good, where the people and the planet are just as important as profit.
After that, there was a lineup of speakers. Broadcaster and retail consultant Mary Portas ripped into what she calls devil brands.
I don't know if all of you know that lovely Chinese brand called Sheen or Shine or Shit or whatever it's called. Do we know? Is there anybody wearing it? Is there anybody in the audience? This would be a great test.
And Mary gave examples of what she defines as angel brands, such as outdoor clothing retailer Patagonia and British cosmetics store The Body Shop.
Before it was sold to L'Oreal.
We want businesses that matter and can still be profitable. If you were going to start a beauty business today that balances what I talk about, trust and desire, a beautiful business, you'd bring back the divine creature who is Anita Roddick and you'd start The Body Shop. She was an activist, she made it sexy, it was ethical, it was daring. She didn't want a factory of production of goods. People talk about purpose. You know, she saw it just as an incubator of the human spirit. Then they sold to L'Oreal. And many lost trust and boycotted it because L'Oreal did animal testing. The desire was dampened because this incredible figurehead with soul and heart and joy that she brought and that activism, it just went with it and it lacked, and you could feel it going into a corporate system.
More importantly, she discussed the say-do gap, the difference between what people say they'll do and what they actually do. I guess it's a diplomatic way of saying hypocrisy. Let us give you an example. For individuals, let's say you pledge to boycott unethical brands, but still drink Coca-Cola, shop from Temu, and eat at McDonald's. Your say-do gap's pretty big.
Now, for businesses, an example could be a company states its commitment to diversity. It carries out basic box-ticking hires, but underpays staff of colour and fails to make any significant changes to the one-dimensional, privileged leadership structure.
Or a company publicly states its commitment to reducing its environmental impact, but other companies in its supply chain have been cited for violations related to waste disposal and pollution. These businesses risk damaging their reputation and facing consumer backlash.
At Storyfiers, we have an effective solution to shrink the say-do gap, which we'll let you in on at the end.
Now, back to the festival. In the afternoon, we headed off to the speed networking sessions where we spoke to some of the 1,000 plus participants and we found out why they are B Corp certified.
We're very, very passionate about transparency. So every garment we have, it has a little QR code that you can scan. It can tell you the entire supply chain.
Success to us is having impact in what we do around sustainability, choosing the right materials for our development, choosing the right suppliers.
Anytime you visit a web page, carbon's emitted. Making low carbon code to the back end bit, we can actually make websites sustainable from the source.
We are offering proactive mental health, well-being, performance psychology support to help everyone thrive at work and beyond.
We do quite a significant amount of work in the ocean conservation space, where we build technology to create transparent platforms for people to take action with this idea of how design can kind of empower people doing good in the world.
And although we're not a B Corp, I also try to share some of our values as a purpose-driven business and where we could help them market themselves better.
We're purpose-driven content creation plus communications training. What we're going to focus on is storytelling. So because we come from a journalism background, we want to get to the crux of the human transformation. So what we do is we produce like high-level, factual, evidence-based content that opens hearts and opens pockets, basically.
There's a bit of an education around it because most companies will just go for basic video production companies, but they don't know that you have to craft the story or how do you actually.
It's not like I'm gonna make a video.
Exactly, yeah. So it's trying to like educate people that there's a service that we provide that's different to a normal video production company, where we craft your story.
Describe a specific person that goes through a transformation through your service. What would that story be?
We want to engage with people who are already committed to doing purpose-driven things and making a positive social impact. We want to be thrown in the deep end and then we'll develop. Sorry, I'm just filming our conversation. You came in the way.
No.
There were some interesting fringe sessions throughout the 2-day festival, but our strategy was to prioritise networking on the first day and attending fringe sessions on the second day. So after 3 events of networking and a quick dance with the Womble, we hit the hay to revitalise for day 2.
If you're interested in the work that we produce as journalists, check out these videos on Fizza's YouTube channel that explore topics like female empowerment projects
and exposing unethical supply chains in the chocolate industry. Chocolate bars we eat are a Western invention, but the core ingredients, the cocoa beans, all they come from places like West Africa, where the workers are exploited on so many levels just so companies like... The second day started with another morning session in the New Theatre where we heard from the author of Less, Better, Local, Patrick Grant. To summarise, he talked about how over the centuries the merchant class took advantage of skilled workforces by taking increasing cuts and adding middlemen, leaving the worker with very little earnings. Today, this merchant class uses tools like ads and marketing to seduce the public to buy things they don't need. This continues to enrich this small group while having a detrimental impact on people and the planet.
These businesses will not exist if they cannot make you buy more all the time. That is how they exist. And that is not sustainable in any way. If they're trying to sell you stuff that you don't need, that is not good for the planet. And the other thing is, none of the money that you're spending is really going to the people that are really doing what I would consider to be good work, which is making something good that's going to last a long time. I believe that that is both wrong and dangerous and needs to be changed.
He founded Community Clothing, and it works under a model that we think should be imitated.
The only way we solve this is by creating new business models whose very heart is built on a model that doesn't require a continued growing of consumption. In fact, if we can create business models that have no consumption at all, lots of economic value, but no consumption, or consumption that is very small and the economic activity is well distributed, that is the way forward, I believe.
We also heard from Cynthia Davis, who talked about justice, equity, diversity and inclusion, and listened to some panel discussions around effective system change and climate action. I'd like to give a special shout out here to Mahnood Kamran.
Are you willing to look beyond the national and into the international? Are you looking at the supply chains? Are you looking at labor practices? You know, when we talk about the Global South, we talk about it from a very suffering perspective or climate injustice perspective, which is valid. But what are you doing to reverse that injustice?
She's not only a youth board member for the renewable energy company Good Energy, a climate activist who had first-hand experience of the recent floods in Pakistan, an advocate for justice for the Global South, and now a student at Oxford. She's only 20 years old, truly a star in the making, and we're surely working together in the future to inspire the world. And honestly, my highlight for the morning was a story from folding bike entrepreneur Julian, in reference to women's exercise advocate Naseem Akhtar, who was on the stage with him.
I went along to a parliamentary event, and along with my godson, who was doing some work experience. And I thought, well, look, you might as well come along. This is part of my stupid job. Come along and see what it's all about. He sat in the audience. At the end, he said very shyly, would you mind if I went and said hello to the panel? Now, on that panel was Chris Boardman. So I said, of course, massive cycling here. So we walk up, and this gangly 15-year-old walks straight past Chris Boardman, who's got his hand out like that, to Naseem and said, you're the most inspirational person I've ever spoken to.
It really goes to show that the most inspirational people are the ones making real-world impact on the ground, within our communities.
Morning sessions rounded up, let's see what we've got in store for the rest of day 2. First, we got a quick coffee from Oxford Town Hall's lovely cafe and made our way to the astounding council chamber in the town hall for the Empowering Change session. They discussed policy and B Corp's processes for political advocacy. You can find more about that on their website.
One of the sessions that I'm looking forward to today, it's called From Label to Landfill. What's in your clothes, how to look after them, and what happens at the end of their life. I want to learn more about how to look after my clothes, how I can shop sustainably for sustainable brands. None of this mainstream fashion, Zara, H&M, we boycott that anyway because of Palestine. But also we need to boycott them because they are complete filth.
Unsustainable.
They are unsustainable.
Unsustainable, unjust.
You're wearing
unjust
plastic.
brands.
So we're going to learn about how we can shop better for a more fair and just world.
This session showed us the dirty secrets behind fashion brands and that if we have the knowledge, we can shop more ethically to improve impact. From the materials you put on your body, to the way you wash them, all the way back to not fueling exploitation of the people who make these clothes. There were some really insightful facts when we looked behind the label of what's in our clothes. The fibers are mostly synthetic, artificial, and toxic, like polyester, which is cheap to manufacture, but incredibly harmful for the environment and your body. The session was delivered by a B Corp certified ethical underwear store called YOU, or U Underwear, that not only makes organic cotton underwear, but it also has a buy one, give one model where every underwear sold, a pair is donated to someone in need.
And that was the end of the 2 days. We came, we learned, and met some inspiring people running purpose-led businesses with aspirations to solve some of the biggest issues through their organizations. So onto the juicy conclusion. Was it worth it?
Let's break down the cost first and how you can save a bit of money.
The festival tickets for the two of us were originally just under £1,000, but as I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get. Which is what I wrote in my email. I reached out to B Corp to see if they've got any small business discounts, and we managed to get 30% off. So the total came to £663.60 for 2 Louder Than Words tickets.
The trains down from Manchester cost just over £100 with a rail card. The hotels came up to £237 for 2 nights. Although we were looking at hotels in Oxford 3 weeks before the festival, it seemed all the hotels were fully booked, except for one terrible Premier Inn. The price does not justify how bad this hotel was. And we spent in the region of £90 on food and taxis.
The grand total came up to £1,090.60 for the 2-day trip. So did we make any connections? Of course. Look at all of the wonderful impact makers you've seen in this video. They now know about us and we know about them.
The Louder Than Words app also gave us access to the 1,200 people who bought tickets to the festival.
We can exchange details and add each other on LinkedIn to keep up to date with where each other's work is at.
And lastly, how do you know if an event is worth it? Ultimately, it depends on your goals. We met some great people on some noble missions, and it's already led to partnerships with mutual benefit. If our collaboration leads to wider positive impact, we'd say that it's worth it.
But you'll never really know what future opportunities may arise from making these connections. Here are some tips to maximize your investment in attending events like this.
Properly define who you are as a person, followed by what your offer is and which brands will most likely benefit from your involvement.
Then find those brands online and follow the socials of people with significant decision-making powers.
Keep up to date with them and what events they attend. Those events will usually attract similar brands with similar visions.
Then you can attend those events to raise awareness about who you are and what you can offer directly to the right people.
Planning accordingly will ensure you get a good return on investment, both financially and in new relationships. And remember the say-do gap Mary Porter's talked about earlier on?
Here's a quick question to ponder for B Corps and other companies who are struggling to shrink that say-do gap. How can you stay true to your ethical commitments and help your business grow?
You need to document how you're executing those commitments through today's most powerful medium, video. Craft compelling narratives with inspiring stories to share with the world.
Think of your high-impact case studies, stories from ethical supply chains, behind the scenes with thriving employees, video podcasts and street interviews where you encourage positive social and environmental changes.
Knowing you need to produce this content will hold you accountable in following through with your commitments.
Ultimately, you shrink your say-do gap and create high-impact marketing content. It's a win-win.
We'll be launching the Storyfiers Academy early next year. So if you want to become a powerful communicator for the modern world, sign up to the waitlist at
Storyfiers.com/academy.
We'll see you in the comments.